Hey guys, it's Getty here from Not Finished Yet with another quick video. This one's titled Questions I Would Ask Myself When Doing Drugs. When smoking, when drinking, when getting high. These are some questions that I would ask myself. Questions like, why am I torturing myself? I countless times I can remember where I just went to the extreme with my consumption of whether it was something I was smoking, something I was drinking, something I was using. I'd go to the extreme level where I'd do too much. I'd go overboard, and then it's like my lungs are burning, my throat is burning, I'm coughing from the smoking, I'm feeling out of breath. I'm just like I feel burnt out. you know, if I would drink too much at countless times throwing up from drinking too much, my head is spinning. I can't even function. Sorry guys, the video cut off. I wouldn't even be able to function slightly normal. I'd get to that inebriated point drinking, and even like stuff like just getting high, using certain things, it just make me feel like worn out. I'd come to this place of just feeling worn out, um, you know, just like pretty much going overboard, getting sick, feeling sick from whatever drug that I was doing. Um, and it would really feel like I was torturing myself. So I would say to myself, these were questions I would ask myself, like, why am I torturing myself? Why am I smoking till it burns? Why am I drinking till I throw up? Why am I using these drugs till I feel sick or I have a bad experience? It's practically like self-torture. And that was one of the questions I would ask myself. Another question that I would ask myself would be, do I really want to be addicted for the rest of my life? Do I want to go through the rest of my life feeling addicted to something, feeling dependent on something, continuing to use or be hooked on something? Like that was going to be my life. My life, I was going to live the rest of my life feeling addicted to something or feeling like I'm hooked or dependent on something. Do I really want to live the rest of my life addicted? And the answer was no. Which comes to the next question that I would ask myself, which would be, why can't I seem to stop? The question I would ask myself would be like, why do I keep going back? Why do I keep going back to this? Why can't I seem to stop? Because obviously I was learning some heavy lessons. I felt like I didn't want to do it anymore because it was making me sick. I was hurting myself. I was torturing myself. So I felt it in my mind like, I really don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to continue smoking like this. I don't want to continue drinking like this. I don't want to continue doing these drugs. But I couldn't seem to stop. I couldn't seem to control myself. It's like I kept going back for more, and that's what addiction is like. That's like the definition of addiction. When those cravings would kick in, and I would feel a slightest temptation or the slightest urge to go have a drink or go have a smoke or go use a drug to get high. When I had that temptation or that idea or that craving, I would go right for it. It was like I couldn't seem to stop. I couldn't seem to control myself. So I would ask myself, why do I keep going back? Why can't I seem to stop? And then the answer is that I was addicted. That's like the definition of addiction. When you want to stop something or you feel like you don't want to do something anymore, and you're having all these consequences from the continuation of what you're doing, but you can't stop, even though it's causing those consequences. That's what addiction is. Like, you can't control yourself. You know that it's causing damage to your health. You know that your addiction is ruining your relationships. You know that addiction is stealing your money. You know that it's hurting your potential for, work or goals or going to the gym or, experiences with friends, going outdoors. You know that your addiction is affecting your life in a negative way, but you still continue to do it because it's like you can't seem to get unhooked. You're hooked onto it's basically this substance, the addiction, whatever you're continuing to do, it controls you. Instead of you controlling something now, it's taking control over you. It's become like a master to you. And the Bible talks a lot of wisdom about this, where it tells us, do not be mastered by anything. You know, do not let something be a master of you. Because Paul talks about things being beneficial. He talks about things that are edifying. But then he says, not all things are beneficial. Not all things are expedient. And do not become under the mastership of something. Do not let something rule over you. It talks about this in God's word. So when you start seeing the addiction taking rulership over you, and you're like, oh man, I really want to stop, but I can't seem to stop. That's what addiction is. It's taking control of you. You want to stop, but you can't. You're having all these cravings. You still have the urge and desire to get high or to smoke or to drink. And that's the reason why I would ask myself, why can't I stop? I thought I was putting a lot of blame on myself, almost like beating myself up, saying, "Oh man, like why can't I stop? Why do I keep going back to this?" It's almost like living the same vicious cycle. You start feeling like you're going insane because some say that's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So I would keep going back and back, thinking that things were going to be different, thinking that I was going to be able to manage, thinking that I was going to have control over it, thinking that I knew what I was doing, but I really just didn't. So I do have responsibility. I do have to take some responsibility for saying, yeah, I got myself in a bad position. I made certain pattern of choices based on my free will that got me addicted, and there's no one I can blame else for that. But I also can't beat myself up thinking that oh, here I was when I wanted to stop and I couldn't seem to stop because I was under the power. I was submitting. I was under the submission of this addiction, this force, this power that was keeping me stuck. And my series of choices brought me to that point. But when I felt like, oh, I don't know why I keep going back, I don't know why I keep doing this drug or drinking or smoking or whatever, when I felt that way, there was something else at that point that was keeping me a slave. It was keeping me a slave. I wanted to gain control. I wanted to stop being addicted, but there was something else there which I can't fully beat myself up for because that's part of the addiction. It's almost like you have a different part of your brain now. There's a different brain, there's a different part of your brain, the addicted brain, that wants to keep you in that place. So I had to fight against re basically what the Bible says as well. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I had to be retraining my brain, which had all these neural pathways that was making it easier, the path of least resistance to go out and use this substance. I was fighting that. I was trying to resist following those neural pathways in my brain. I was trying to fight how my brain was wired to go back to those addictive things. And I really had to fight to retrain my brain. to not be addicted to this thing anymore. That was part of it. That was the biological and scientific part of it. But I also know that I need God's help. I mean, there would be countless times I'd say, God, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, please help me. Take this away. I don't want to be addicted to this. I don't want to do this anymore. So I know that I also needed God's help, but there is a biological aspect to this, and that's kind of some of what I was up against. So I had to realize I can't fully beat myself up for wondering why I can't seem to stop doing this thing when I was really just addicted to it. I had to be a little bit compassionate, saying there's something greater than me that's keeping me stuck, and it's not 100% my fault or in my control any longer. I'd given up my control. So it was about regaining that self-control, discipline, biblical, um, just biblical grounding, really, but also having that biblical foundation that I was doing things in a godly way. This is how I was going to conquer my addictions. This is how I was going to take it on. If I'm not going to be addicted anymore, I'm going to need to follow the biblical way of being free, giving it to God, becoming a real man of God, and breaking away from that. And that involved a lot of things: dying to my flesh, becoming more self-controlled. Part of it was through fasting, becoming more disciplined, prayer, communion with God, fellowship, staying involved. Is a lot of parts to it, but we also don't have to overburden ourselves or stress ourselves out thinking that we have to do all these things just to be free or stay free, because really ultimately it comes back down to needing God. You need God. We need to trust God. We need to go to God for help. We need that's where freedom is found. So all of that. I know this is a complex thing, but there's a lot of important things that I mentioned in this video, guys. So I hope that you picked up on it. But those again were some of the questions that I would ask myself. Why am I torturing myself? Why would I go to the extreme? Why would I smoke until my lungs hurt? Why would I drink until I puked? Why would I feel sick from using too many things? You know, um, am I gonna be addicted to this for life? That was like the other question I asked myself. Why do I keep going back to this? Why can't I seem to stop? Questions like that I would ask myself. When I was doing these things. And I'm still in the process, guys. I don't want to pretend that I'm completely sober and have this all figured out, because I still find myself smoking a cigar sometimes, or like having a beer. I don't use any hard drugs. I don't smoke weed anymore. I haven't done it for years. Um, but there's like these other minor or light grade drugs that people would say that kind of make you feel a little high. I just have to be careful. Like anything that's has psychoactive properties or might get me high, I don't want to be doing. I know that I want to be completely sober. That's the goal. That's what I'm striving for. So God help. God help us stay sober. God help us to follow him closely, and God help us for every day and every moment of our lives. Thank you for watching, guys. God bless you. Peace.